Greetings, salutations to Safe to Serve International and first-time viewers. Welcome to this midday power surge. I'm your host, Andrew Henriquez. Now today we have two segments. One, I'm going to be covering a particular current event, which is fulfilling end-time prophecies. And of course, sounding the alarm one more time for the work of preparation. Praise God, I'm not merely an alarmist, but I'm sounding the alarm in these last days. And secondly, I'm going to be addressing a Q&A session so we can sharpen our minds as it relates to the Word of God and the work of preparation. Let's begin. So what's happening now? What's trending all over the media? Well, my friends, truckers for Trump. Truckers are threatening New Yorkers with no deliveries. And they're telling New Yorkers to stock up on supplies. Stock up on supplies. And we're seeing a time wherein Americans are living on the edge. Not only are people in New York suffering, but people in other states are also going to suffer as a result of what's transpiring. Do you know what bells are ringing right now based on end-time prophecies? It is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3, where the question was asked, what will be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? And verse 7, Christ mentions clearly, let no man deceive you. On what issues? Wars. Not only wars with various nations, but even a civil war. And Christ mentioned in verse 4 and verse 7 of Matthew 24, there shall be famines. Think about that. Truckers no longer delivering. What's going to happen to those stores? And many people depend on food and also goods, commodities, resources sold in these stores. A time of famine. Clip 1. Watch this. It says, because we want to see what's transpiring here. All right. Headline says, judge fines Trump more than $350 million and bars him from running businesses in New York for the next 3 years. The state attorney general's office said that when factoring in prejudgment interest, the amount exceeds $450 million. But of course, Trump says he's going to appeal the verdict. Watch this.
Good afternoon. We're coming on the air with major developments involving Donald Trump. This involves New York State's civil fraud trial against Donald Trump and a massive blow to Trump and his sons, Don Jr. and Eric Trump. Judge Arthur Engoron has just released his ruling on damages against both the former president and his sons for the exaggeration of the values of their real estate holdings in order to receive benefits for loans and insurance purposes, according to New York's Attorney General.
And friends, right now on Twitter, we see on X, various things are trending. Hashtag groceries. Hashtag truckers for Trump. Hashtag New York. Hashtag New Yorkers. All these are trending on X right now from yesterday into today. Watch this. This is Trump's response to the ruling in New York City.
Johnny.
These are corrupt people. These are people that shouldn't be allowed to do the things they do. And they're using this as weaponization against a political opponent who's up a lot in the polls and always will be, because I'm competing with a man who can't put two sentences together.
So basically stating they are attempting to sabotage his presidency, his run for president. I'm not here to be partisan. I'm simply stating this current event and how it is going to affect God's people in the last days. In that same scripture, I referenced at the beginning of this presentation, Matthew 24, verse 3, verse 4, verse 7. Do you realize in verse number 8, it mentions these are the beginning of sorrows? Do you realize in verse 9, then the attack is on God's people. The crises will negatively impact God's commandment-keeping people. We just saw Trump's response. Here are the responses now from the truckers. Headline: Trump supporting truckers threatened to boycott New York City after court rulings against him. That's February 19th. That was yesterday. Headline: Truckers vow to cut off deliveries to New York City in protest of Trump's $355 million civil fraud ruling. All right. It could shut New York City down. Not only a male trucker and male truckers, watch this, female trucker, joining boycott to protest Trump verdict says consumers will pay the price when they stop delivering. Clip 1 in this series.
Well, some of President Trump's supporters are pushing back.
And by the way, just notice that New York City is actually the largest city in the country. And what is now affecting New York might very well impact negatively other states. Here it is.
Well, some of President Trump's supporters are pushing back against what they see as an unfair justice system, threatening a boycott that could have a major impact on the country's largest city. Some truck drivers say they're planning on refusing shipments to and from New York City in protest of that $355 million verdict against the former president in his business fraud trial. Dre Clark is live in Manhattan with the latest. Dre, what could this boycott do to prices, not just in New York, but for all of us across the country?
Now, before he speaks, there's something in the background. It is a civil war that's brewing. What these truckers and others are saying, if you attack Trump, you attack us. Because Trump is patriotic. He's trying to overthrow the globalists. We stand with Trump. Attack him, you attack us. Trump is for our country. And these individuals, attorney generals, other politicians, merchants, the elites, the globalists, when they attack Trump, they're actually attacking us. Is a civil war brewing? Watch this. And remember, globalism versus individualism is at the backdrop of this. Speak now.
Well, certainly if truck drivers were to boycott New York City, the impact has the potential to be very damaging and very quickly. We're talking about supermarkets, big box stores, and other businesses that rely heavily on trucking. They would feel the pinch, and so would their customers. About 90% of communities here in New York City rely heavily on trucking to move their goods. This morning, we're on the Jersey side of the George Washington Bridge, and every day you can see hundreds, if not thousands, of trucks crossing the bridge from Jersey into the city. Meanwhile, one man is now telling truck drivers not to come to New York City after former President Trump was hit with that massive multi-million-dollar fine last week. Take a listen.
Okay, before we play that, one man, I believe his name is Chicago Ray, all right? One man, I'm going to share with you, it is a movement that is gaining momentum. I will play his clip. It seems as if he was the actual spark to this blazing fire, which might become an inferno.
Listen.
I've been on the radio talking to drivers for about the last hour 15 minutes. And I'm talking to at least 10 drivers going the other way. I'm heading down from South Wisconsin. And they're going to start refusing loads in New York City starting on Monday.
Yeah, the man calls himself Chicago Ray, and as of last night, his post on X, formerly Twitter, had garnered more than 6 million views and 60,000 likes. Former President Trump also caught wind of what Chicago Ray is doing and reposted Ray's video on his platform, Truth Social. But it's hard to ascertain exactly how many drivers are answering his call and what kind of impact it may have. It's not an organized effort, and the drivers expressing support for Chicago Ray, they're scattered all across the country.
I'm wondering, are there any truckers watching Midday Power Surge at this time? If there are, I'm going to ask you to call in at the appointed time. Just stay tuned. I'm going to open the phone lines. If there is a trucker watching Midday Power Surge, I would love to hear from you. Your take on what's happening. Clip 3.
Meanwhile, we talked to one driver who says she's joining the movement to boycott New York City, and she says if things go as planned, the city could pay a big price.
It could shut New York City down. And, I don't want to hurt the people of New York. That's not what I'm trying to do. But my part in it, if New York just loses 10%, just 10% of the trucks that go in there, their prices are going to skyrocket on everything from milk to eggs to any type of goods that the consumer needs. And when that happens, it's going to cost everybody more money.
All right. Now they're telling us what is coming. Watch this. Next clip.
She says it's going to drive businesses away. No pun intended that there are truckers for Trump that are now refusing to drive into this state. I'm just one of the many millions of truckers, wrote one, who believe in God and love this country. I stand with Trump because Trump stands with me. Truckers for Trump ain't just a slogan, it's real. And I noted one of the comments to his post as he was saying, as a commercial truck driver, I will no longer be driving into this state while this is happening. And the user, the comment said, thank you for being a true patriot. If all of us patriots stand up, we will make a difference. We have to push back against the ones trying to purposely destroy our country.
All right. Do you see the point? On the backdrop, it is a civil war that is brewing. Globalism, they say, versus individualism. And notice how they're sprinkling into the mix religion and God. This is a civil war that's brewing. And notice what transpired on January 6th, 2021, when many of them believed that a fraud took place and they marched and protested at the Capitol. That's where I'm going to leave it. Could this be a backdrop? Could this be a foretaste of what might happen come November 2024 if their candidate should lose the election for president and they sense and think it was because of some fraud? We haven't seen anything yet. Now the next clip will speak about a boomerang effect, how not only truckers will boycott New York City, but also businesses may move out of New York City because of what the Attorney General has done to Trump. Watch this.
This is called the boomerang effect that we're seeing now, like with these truckers, for example. You brought up how this could bankrupt the city.
Yeah.
The city currently has a $4.3 billion budget shortfall. And to Lisa's point, which was perfectly made, more businesses, especially real estate companies who are already paying really high taxes here in New York, they're out of here. They're going to Tennessee, where you went to school, where you currently live now. They're going to Florida.
See, they're moving out to Tennessee, to Florida. I want you all to think about this issue from different perspectives. The common people in New York City, what did they do to be paying high prices? What did they do? They did nothing. They are simply casualties in a war. Yeah. What have we done? Nothing. But remember, all these crises will be turned against God's commandment-keeping people in the last days. Here it is now. It's gaining momentum. Not just one trucker or two truckers. All the truckers don't have to boycott New York City. All you need is a fraction. And the receivers who are purchasing these goods, who must receive these deliveries, will have to pay more for the deliveries. And these receivers will not pass on the high price, the interest, the expenses onto the buyers. Watch this.
So yesterday I make a video about New York truckers that are boycotting going into the city, going into parts of New York. And the video takes off and gets about 500,000 views. And I'm like, oh, that's it. That's not it. It keeps gaining momentum and gaining momentum. Take a look at this.
Trucker strike tomorrow, New York. Good luck.
So now you got truckers all around New York sending in videos of empty truck stops.
Yeah, I think groceries are high now. You better respect Trump's gangster.
And so this was my point yesterday. It's not like that all of them have to stop, or even 50%. Just a small fractional percentage of these guys say, hey, we're not going there, and that's going to affect everyone.
You in New York, you won't be receiving anything from these drivers.
And I'll just tell you.
You know, friends, I'm going to draw a particular juxtaposition. In the streets, because someone just said Trump gangster. In the streets, when rival gang members are warring, all one gang needs to hear is that one of their opponents is in an all-out battle with someone else. And then this gang sees it now as an opportunity to take out their opponent, because now they know the media is going to blame somebody else. What's my point? The powers that be already said, don't let a good crisis go to waste. So now as these truckers, and they may have a point to be boycotting New York City, it's their right to protest. It's their right. But what will these globalists and scoundrels and tyrants do? Would they not precipitate the crisis? Would they not take advantage of this now to now shorten food supply? Can we see what might transpire? Clip 2. Come on.
Just tell you right now, this thing has gained enough of momentum that if you're in New York, you're going to feel this one way or another. I promise you, it's going to affect you. Which begs the next point, right? The next question, why don't they just do this in D.C.? Why don't they do it in Chicago, Baltimore, Pennsylvania? All of these blue cities that are so against Trump, why don't the truckers just shut them down? Just stop going there. Just stop hauling, right? And you're in the heart of these culture wars. You cannot deny that we're not in the heart of these culture wars.
It's a what? It's a culture war. Not only what we're seeing in New York City, it can affect other states, other cities. Now, just to make sure we understand that this crisis is real, Glenn Beck, you know how prominent and influential he is. Yesterday during his broadcast, he actually asked truckers to call into his program and to give their testimony on what's going on. Are they also a part of the boycott? And several truckers called in from different states in America, over-the-road truckers, and they stated they're not going to deliver to New York City, to New York State. Again, are there any truckers watching Midday Power Surge? If so, call in. The number is 689-777-5198. 689-777-5198. The Preacher Producers will put that in the chat. 689-777-5198. Glenn Beck. Listen.
One of the best things I have heard in a long time, and I'd love to talk to truckers. If you're a trucker and you're going to participate in this, I'm not going to ask your name. Just call us up. If you're one of the truckers that are refusing now to drive to New York City after the $355 million fraud ruling on Donald Trump, a conservative.
All right. So again, if you are a trucker and you have a perspective on this, call in 689-777-5198. This is the first caller to Glenn Beck's program, calling from the state of Pennsylvania. Watch this and watch his response.
Now, Rob, you're a truck driver in Pennsylvania. Do you deliver much to New York City?
Well, I delivered about a month ago. I delivered 8 times to the 5 boroughs.
Okay, and are you going to continue to do it?
No, sir. I've already told my dispatch that they're under no circumstances will I be crossing that bridge again. I won't go into New York State, much less the city.
So what was dispatch's reaction to that? Do you get any heat?
No, I actually got another one. It seems like about between 20 and 25% of our drivers have refused to go into take any loads into New York State anymore.
Now, will that make...
Stop. It's a big deal now. You see, friends, here is another perspective. All there needs to be is something in the air. Fear. Fear affects the marketplaces. Fear. And all that needs to be in the air is this crisis. A lack of drivers to deliver goods and commodities and resources. Do you know truck drivers and their companies can take advantage of this now? You New Yorkers who need our services, now I want you all to pay us more to deliver to your office, your building in New York City. Pay us more. Even if their drivers are not a part of the boycott. And then the companies now in New York, the stores in New York who pay more for the goods, what happens? They pass on that to their buyers, their consumers. You and I who go to their stores to shop. Watch this. This one comes in from Alabama. From Alabama.
Paying more.
Roger in Alabama. Hello, Roger.
Yeah. Hey, I drive into the city probably a couple times a week, delivering fresh seafood from the Gulf, from Louisiana and Alabama, Mississippi, and for me to drive into New York City, it's a pain, but it pays well. But so I'm not going to do that anymore. And
you see, even though it pays well, I will not do it anymore. And think about this. If some truckers form the boycott, where are they going to get other truckers from? And if anybody drives those big rig trailers, they know it's not easy to navigate those tight streets in New York City. Watch this.
Let me go to Scott in Massachusetts. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Glenn.
Yes.
First time, long time.
Thank you.
Hey, yeah, I'm not going to New York City. It costs $100 and some odd bucks. I think it's $130 to cross the bridge.
Jeez.
That I can look.
See? All right. Another one from Ohio. Why am I doing this? I'm showing you, friends, what can take place. Now, this might die out in the next few days. I'm not trying to be a person crying wolf. This might die out in the next few days. But here's the reality. Could this be God showing us what can happen? By the way, what will happen? By the way, what should happen? But God is saying, I'm going to delay the coming crisis just a little longer so you, my people, will believe the prophecies and get ready. This caller comes from Ohio or Georgia.
To be Don Glenn.
Hello, Jay.
Hey, how's it going, Glenn?
Ohio.
Good.
Yeah, I every Monday I get loaded here in the Columbus area, and I head to Manhattan, and that's not happening today. So,
really, and what did your bosses say?
It's funny because he's very liberal, but he pretty much everybody in his company is not.
Yeah.
And so he's like, and I told him, and he's like, and he kept justifying it's like, well, I mean, they are, they're doing the whole thing where, every vehicle crosses over, it gets taxed and everything and stuff like that. So it helps out in the long run. I'm thinking, okay, cool. Glad I have your permission, but I wasn't going to do it anyway.
So how many?
The last one is from Georgia. Hear what he said.
Well, I hadn't heard about the boycott until you mentioned it.
Really?
I personally, made that decision when I heard the announcement last week. But yeah, it's it's not right.
No, it's not right. It's not right. And
Listen.
this, I think, is the kind of thing that Martin Luther King would have done. This is a peaceful protest. It's all of the individuals choosing for themselves. I'm not going to support that kind of activity, and not.
And notice how effective, impactful truckers who boycott cities can be. Watch this contrast, comparison, juxtaposition. Glenn Beck.
I'm interested to see how this works out. I mean, this is a group of people that can make a huge difference, and we as a population, they know we don't ever do anything. You know, the minute a state says, no, boys have to go to boys' bathrooms, girls go to girls' bathrooms, which is completely common sense, they go crazy, they boycott the state. It usually has no effect. Truckers, however, can do that. And it will make a difference.
Yes.
Because it's already hard to move goods. And if you're not, especially in Manhattan, there's only 10 roads in. 10. And you're a trucker, you have to go between, I think it's 11 p.m. or midnight to 5 a.m. And if you're a trucker and you've not driven in New York City, it's going to be a nightmare. A nightmare. But sending the message, hey, return to the rule of law. We don't hunt people. We don't find a person and then find the crime.
Okay, Glenn Beck.
If there's a crime, so be it.
All right.
But we don't do it based on who you are.
Thank you, Glenn Beck. You know, Frank, what's startling here? What if some truck drivers refuse to join the boycott? What if the truckers who are part of the boycott stage at a particular place and all these truckers who refuse to sympathize with the movement are now hurt? Their trucks are stoned. Their trucks are actually harmed, bodily harm. You don't know how far this can go. So what are they now telling New Yorkers? New Yorkers, they're telling New Yorkers it's time to store up. Watch this. Headline, Trump backing trucker. After backing down, has warning for New York City, start stocking up. Watch this.
Hey folks, Chicago Ray checking in. Since I talked to you last time, a couple hours ago, I got back on the radio, been listening, been talking to a few guys. This is real, man. There's guys that ain't going. I talked to a guy, he denied a refrigerator load. Okay, which, refrigerators going to New York City, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good money. Okay, so I gotta give that guy his credit for that. But, if this goes longer than a week, like they're saying,
all right,
man, New York City better start stocking up. And they better start stocking up now.
All right.
Okay.
Enough stocking up.
I don't want, like I said, I ain't wishing anybody anything.
It's start to stocking up. Now watch this carefully. This is the same clip I played earlier. The same individual is talking about. He saw this coming several months, years ago, and as a result, he and his sister held a meeting. He and his sister held a family meeting. And what did they do? They moved out of New York City and also moved their mother out of the cities. This is a person from the world. What is God saying to us? Watch this.
We're in the middle of these culture wars. So how far is this going to go? Because for me personally, I think this is just getting started. And the next thing they're going to do, they're going to start targeting all these major cities, and we'll just get into a culture war with each other, and then we'll just stop supplying. You see where we're going with this? And before you say it'll never work, worked in France with those farmers, didn't it?
All right.
And please don't think I'm some redneck from Texas telling you how it is. I lived in Hell's Kitchen for a very long time. Took the 19 to the 23 to Wall Street every single day. My sisters and I had a meeting. We got my mother out of that city 3 years ago when it got really violent to ride those subways. And this culture war just...
We got our mother out of the wicked cities. My time is slipping. Now, one thing is certain. I call for truckers who watch Midday Power Surge presently to call in, had a few calls. It seems as if we have no truckers presently watching Midday Power Surge. All right, that's all right. At this point, I want to drive home this important point and move into our Q&A. Let's get to our Q&A. And the purpose of the question and answer segment, I could simply state these points, but I want to repackage them so that they leave an indelible mark on our minds. It's time for us to be prepared. The question is, are we seeing a movement on foot wherein food could be used as a weapon? Even though the truckers mean well, if you simmer down the movement, they're using delivering goods as a weapon, food as a weapon, accessing food, accessing commodities, goods, services as a weapon. Wake up, my friends. Let's move on and get to my question number one here. All right? Question number one. Let's get this going. Who was the originator of using food and other resources as a weapon? You have four options. Option A, Jacob. Option B, Satan. Option C, Herod. Option D, Nebuchadnezzar. Use your smartphone and answer the poll question in the poll section. Please do not put the answer in the chat area, only in the poll question section. Who was the originator of using food and other resources as a weapon? You have about 20 more seconds to give your answer. You know, friends, we are told in the last days that there is going to be a civil war. It's going to take place. Just as it was here in France, the French Revolution, it's going to take place. The book Education, page 228, confirm, confirm. In Manuscript Releases, volume 5, page 305, paragraph 4, expect in the last days a civil war. All right? Let's come back here. Let's end the poll and let us have the actual results here, friends. What do we have? So we have 52% chose option B, which is Satan, the originator of using food and other resources as a weapon to get an objective across. That answer is correct. The originator, the beginning, this happened in the Garden of Eden. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 through verse 6. To get Eve and Adam to sin. What was the medium Satan used? A fruit. A fruit. Question number 2. Using food as a weapon began where? Using food as a weapon began where? 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 4 options. Option A, heaven. Option B, Egypt. Option C, Babylon. Option D, Garden of Eden. You have 30 seconds to choose your answer. Where did it begin? I want these points to leave an indelible mark upon our minds. Friends, we are told in the book Maranatha, page 162, human laws are going to be made so stringent that men and women will not dare observe the seventh-day Sabbath for fear of wanting food and clothing. Many will join with the world in transgressing God's law. It's time to store up. All right? Let's end the poll and let's get the results here. Where did this begin? All right, so we have Friends, let's hit 90%, please. Over 90. What do we have, preacher? Results. Mr. Producer, so 89% chose the Garden of Eden. Option D. That answer is correct. And the reference is Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 through verse 6. Using food as a weapon began in the Garden of Eden. Question number 3. Which nation in the book of Genesis used food as a weapon? Which nation in the book of Genesis used food as a weapon? You have 4 options. Option A, Canaan. Option B, Sodom. Option C, Egypt. Option D, the Tower of Babel. You have 30 seconds. Which nation in the book of Genesis? These points, God is trying to awaken us to see what can be, what should be, but God is holding back the winds of strife. In the book, The Desire of Ages, page 121 says, in the last great conflict of the controversy with Satan, those who are loyal to God will see every earthly support cut off. You mean no truck deliveries? Every earthly support cut off. Question. So what if we are unprepared? And what if we are non-compliant to government policies? Listen, we won't be able to order and purchase things online. There's no FedEx truck coming to our homes, no UPS, no Amazon truck coming to our homes. Wake up, my friends. All right, end the poll and let's get this answer here. All right. Results, preacher. So we have 88% chose option C, which is Egypt. Food as a weapon. That's Genesis chapter 47, verse 13 through verse 21. And the people sold their lands, sold their bodies, sold their souls in order to get food. The nation of Egypt used food as a weapon. It's coming. Question number 4. In the book of Revelation, which nation will primarily use access to goods, access to services as a weapon? You have 4 options. Option A, China. Option B, United States of America. Option C, the UK. And option D, Canada. You have 30 seconds to prayerfully choose your answer. Which nation in the book of Revelation primarily will use access to goods and services as a weapon? All right. Friends, these things are real. The last clip I played, the man and his sister held a meeting to relocate their mother from the wicked cities to the country. What is God saying to us? In the book Adventist Home, page 141. It's time for God's people to move out of the wicked cities. It's time. It's time to grow their own provisions. It is time. It is time, my friends. Why? A time is going to come. A time is going to come when many will want to leave and will not be able to leave. Country Living, page 11. You will try to leave when it's too late and will not be able to leave. All right, let's end the poll. And let's get the results for question number 4. What do we have for the results? So we have 92% chose option B, the United States of America. That answer is correct. That's Revelation chapter 13. Amen. Verse 15 through verse 17. You won't be able to buy or sell except you receive the mark of the beast. You see it now? Using the access to goods and services as a weapon for the mark of the beast time period. Do you see how important this current event was today? Question number 5. Which person in the Bible used food as a weapon? You have four options. Option A, Nebuchadnezzar. Option B, Haman. Option C, Jacob. And option D, Goliath. Goliath. You have 30 seconds to choose your option correctly. Which person in the Bible used food as a weapon? All right, friends. To get a particular agenda accomplished. We must understand where we are because Bible prophecies will be repeated. All right, friends, very, very important. A time is going to come. We won't be able to leave. God's people, go out of the cities, into the countries, grow your own provisions, for in the future, the problem of buying and selling, again, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. All right? My brother, producers, end the poll, and let's get the actual results here. Which person in the Bible used food as a weapon? So we have 50% chose option C. This is Jacob. In Genesis chapter 25, when Jacob said to Esau, "Oh, you're hungry? Oh, you're dying, you say? Sell me your birthright. I'll give you the pot of lentils." And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob. Jacob used food as a weapon. That's clear, right? All right. Question number 6. Which creature in the Bible is used as an example of storing up and stocking up? Storing up and stocking up. You have four options. Option A, lion. Option B, the dove. Option C, the eagle. And option D, the ant. You have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds. Which creature in the Bible is used, come back, as an actual example of stocking up and storing up? The first question in between Jacob and Esau, that's verse 25 through verse 34. Verse 25 through verse 34 of Genesis 25. All right. And the poll, preacher, let's get the actual results here. Which creature? You have, okay, the first 90%. Thank you so much, friends. 93% chose option D, which is the ant. That's Proverbs chapter 6, verse 6 through verse 11. Also, Proverbs chapter 30. It's also in chapter 30 of Proverbs and verse 25. Or a last poll question. Question number 7. Which parable in the Bible represents spiritual storing up? For these last days, you have four options. Option A, the parable of the wheat and tares. Option B, the prodigal son. Option C, the 10 virgins. Option D, the good Samaritan. You have 30 seconds. Which parable in the Bible represents spiritual storing up? Not only storing up goods, food, water, which represent the third key of the 5 keys of survival, but there must be a spiritual storing up, the first key of the 5 keys of survival. Come on, friends. Let's aim for over 90% on this one. And the purpose of these questions is to leave that mark on our minds. It's time to be found getting ready, being ready, awakening others to get ready and to remain ready. Amen. I would appreciate you share this presentation. End the poll. Let's get the results now. So we have 88% chose option C, the parable of the 10 virgins. How many did you get correct? Well, friends, we are streaming on several platforms. The links are in the description for that. All right. And remember, let's be fun prepared. Leave a comment. What point stood out to you? What point stood out to you from this presentation? I will meet you in the comment section. And by God's grace, I will see you tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern for Midday Power Surge. Again, the Lord is soon to come, and the protest continues.